Hello dear community, and welcome to our second live stream today from Zurich. We saw really excellent demo day from F10 FinTech Accelerator and Incubator here in Zurich. It was a fantastic event, 13 very good startups that pitched here. I was very impressed. And we have a team, we have the founder, we have with us Andreas, we have Deborrah as a mentor, we have James as a coach, and we have Marek as one of the startups who participated. Guys, thank you for joining in.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Andreas, we will talk about the demo day, talk about the solutions that were presented, talk about fintech space, talk about alumni, how many actually after they leave your program manage to survive on the market, because this is proof of your excellence or not. But before we start, once more, what is F10, what is F10 FinTech Accelerator, what do you do, how do you define your purpose?
Okay, so F10 is a startup incubator and accelerator which is mainly focusing on fintech and insurtech corporates. What we try to do is actually helping the startups getting from a prototype to a product, while we try to combine, the strengths of the corporates and the startups together. So together they can, create more value. Together they can be more successful. That's what we do.
And as far as I understood, you have 3 different programs. You have the Accelerator Batch 6-month program for startups, 10 or to 15 of them are accepted, and then you have hackathons, the biggest hackathon in Europe that you started in Zurich, and the 3rd program, so you have different approaches, company building, acceleration. Can you just draw a line here?
Yes, it's a process along the value chain of the development of a startup. So we start at a very early beginning where we try to teach young people to become an entrepreneur. That's more the hackathon setting we do. So 48 hours together, different disciplines, different people bringing together for a weekend working on a product. And then after you have met your buddies and eventually you will start a business, you can also apply for our flagship program called P2, Prototype to Product. It's a 6-month full-fledged accelerator program where you at the end of the day will incorporate your company and get investment. And then like the 3rd element of the value chain is basically enter your product into the market and scale it, which is the P3, the product to market program, where we actually help you together with the corporate partners to scale your business and to become successful and eventually become a unicorn.
And you're backed with many premium banks, premium corporate clients, insurance companies. Do these startups profit from this network?
Yes, the idea is basically that we leverage the resources and the knowledge and the market access and the power we have from the corporates to the startups, that together they can create new products, new businesses, and then that they can scale. So it's actually a kind of a symbiosis between the corporate world and the startup world.
Maybe Marek, to validate this statement that we just heard from Andreas, maybe just take the microphone. How was the experience from you? You took part in this current batch. You were one of the selected ones, which is already a big award because the selection process is very strict. There's a lot of very high criteria for that. How was the experience for you?
Yeah, absolutely. We took the part at the P2 program, so prototype to product. One of the biggest benefits for us, and from the practical perspective, was the access to the corporates. I think not too many accelerators across Europe, and maybe probably across the world, have these direct connections to big corporates, which is not really easy to get to them. In the fintech, the sales cycle is 12 to 18 months, and we had the direct shortcut to the right people. So for us, it was really fast to find out, okay, is the product market fit right for these big corporates or not? So I think this was one of the biggest values we got. Also the support from the community, James being my coach and a great leader, he steered us the right direction. So I think the whole structure of the program was excellent, and very happy to take part. So
you started your company in Bratislava in Slovakia. How did you find out about this program? How did you apply for it?
So the funny story is that there was another Slovak company in the batch before. Coach was again James, and they recommended us this program. There are not too many fintech startups in Slovakia and Bratislava, so once we heard about this, we gave it a shot, and we went through a diligent process to get in, and we got in. Yeah.
Now give us a short pitch of your company. What did you do? What did you apply with?
Right, so what we're doing, we are B2B software as a service for venture capital and private equity funds to help them with fund administration, fund management, and reporting.
What kind of companies do you compete with there? Because they have some tools already now.
So most of the, we compete with Excel spreadsheets first of all. So it's a pretty nice technology to disrupt. But of course there are technologies that are on the market. Of course we're competing with them, but I think we have more advanced technology and processes and software architecture. So
perfect. James, what is your role in the program? You're coaching a startup. How intense is this relationship? What can they expect from you?
I mean, so for my role itself is, other than a coach, I'm also a program organizer. So I'm actually out there scouting startups, finding them from inception, going through the evaluation product, and then once they're here, I have the privilege of coaching a select few. I mean, we're very lucky. We have 4 coaches in the program. We take coaching very seriously in our program. We don't kind of just program organize and just let the startups go. We really try to sit there and almost be an extension of their team. So our coaches will take maybe between 3 and 5 teams as well and coach them along the way. But what I really enjoy about it, I had some startup experience in my past, had my own fintech startup, that I can pass that on to some extremely brilliant people. It's a lot of fun. And it's great because the startups that we normally have in our program, they're a little bit more mature, a little bit older. I mean, it doesn't mean that we don't also have young startups, but we have normally older startups that understand some aspect of the financial services space. And for me, and this is a fun part, I actually learn a lot. For example, working with Marek, he's an expert when it comes to venture capitalism. So I learned a lot from him. So going into the team and helping the team, there was a lot of kind of back and forth in what we did. I was able to help out with a few teams. I stole some knowledge from information, which is, it's always good. But it's a relationship that we have from start all the way till now, and this is kind of why we're drinking beer right now, having a good time. It's a celebration. It's the last day, and you see really the acceleration process with the teams. And we talked a lot with startups that are kind of outside the ecosystem that maybe don't go through accelerators, and it just takes them longer to get some traction, or there's a different kind of approach. But with the 6-month program, it appears to us, and again, I'm on the inside, so maybe I'm a little bit biased, they progress really quickly. We push them a little bit harder. We're very challenging. We're really hard on them, but they deliver. I mean, it's amazing. And we were joking earlier how Mark got into the program before, from Slovakia. I mean, we've had a lot of, I wouldn't say luck, but we've had a lot of opportunities to work with Eastern European teams. The hunger is there, and the fact that we had a Slovakian team before, we've had a Romanian team, some Estonian teams. They seem to work really, really well within, in the Swiss environment, and the solutions they bring are just exceptional. So we're really actually a privilege to have and work with them.
Great. Deborah, you're a mentor in this program. What's the differentiation between a coach and mentor? How deeply involved do you get in the teams?
So yeah, as a mentor, I joined in January just before the first batch, and that came once again through connections. I wanted to be part of the startup ecosystem here in Zurich, and also wanted to pass on, what I know about business models and so on. And eventually, you get a speed dating, and all the startups that are actually in the program, you get, get to know them, and eventually F10 matches you with one of the startups. So you have a one-on-one mentorship, and each startup gets one of these mentors, and then it's basically what you make of it. So there's no big rules what how you have to mentor. So it's really about working with the startup and figuring out how you can help them. So in my case, I was mentoring a startup that also demonstrated today, Luminant Analytics. I think I managed to be a bit of a sparring partner, having very intense relationships, or I guess intenser relationships with the coach that is also kicking the startup's ass a little bit, because we have milestones here at F10 that need to be reached, and that's the mentor actually gets to do the good part, to be a sparring partner, connect them with the ecosystem. For example, I was able to set up an investor meeting for the startup that I was mentoring, and so that's really great, and it helps to have a little bit the outside perspective. I don't come from the finance industry, so yeah, it just takes them out of there, and you get a little bit of a second opinion, I would say.
We visited your office early this morning, and we had the first live stream with Marcus and Thomas, and we were talking about the development in the fintech space in general, and I think they both mentioned that 3-4 years ago we still thought, okay, the fintechs will ruin the banks and will take their business away. But the solutions that we saw today actually here from all 13 startups maybe speak a different story. What's your, so to say, summary of the business solutions, technology that are in use that were presented here? What is going on in fintech space currently?
Yeah, we had an expert here on the stage today, and I think it's moving and shaking a lot, the fintech space. I think the real disruptor and the real game changers in the financial industry, who I think needs innovation desperately, are actually the startups that come from outside. Not so much the inside perspective, although obviously our corporate partners do innovate themselves, but it just gives you a second angle. People that have maybe left the corporates, that have a bit of a more entrepreneurial mindset, and I think what we try to do at F10 is to give them a kind of environment where they are really like away from the corporate environment, be very independent and have that support. And I think the fintech industry is, unlike many others, very much dependent on the collaborations between the established players, the old economy, as they say, and the new wild game changers.
Yes, please.
Just want to add one little quick thing on that one. So just, we just graduated a program today, our third batch. Our next batch will start in December. The application period for that is in September 6th.
Yes.
And we've already had a number of applications that already came through. And what's interesting about these applications that have already come through is that people are starting to look at different technologies and different use cases on how it can be put towards finance and fintech. So you're getting some good VR, AR. You're having some really kind of left field thinkers that are, hey, these are different use cases that we can be applied to finance. So it is opening up. It's really nice to see, and it's really nice to see applications that are coming in that vein, that aren't the same UX, nice design, good, cute interfaces. They're more in-depth, how they can fit and collaborate with corporates and big banks, so in the B2B space. So it's a nice kind of transition that we've got into in the fintech space. More
down to earth, that maybe at the beginning, the imagination that the banks will not exist anymore because fintechs are coming. Yeah, and you know what, and that's a fun place to start, to be honest. I mean, it's a fun place from an innovation point of view, is, hey, where does the banks look like in 5, 10, 20 years? It's a fun exercise to do. And yes, you might want to start up a bank from scratch, and there's a number of great banks that are trying to do it, but how do we transition? How do we get to there and then kind of scale ourselves backwards, and then, okay, now let's go forward again? So there's a lot of smart people, there's a lot of great people out there that are doing it. I mean, a lot of our corporate partners are thinking the same way, and it's good to have startups that also think the same way with the corporate partners. We actually saw today 3 corporate startups presenting here, startups developed from corporate teams. And maybe, Andreas, this can also be one question that interests me. Do you, in your talks with your corporate clients, do you sense some fear from them that you might motivate their top performers and senior staff to go out of the corporate structure and develop their own business, like to be a recruiting threat for them? Yeah, hopefully that's actually the intention of the whole corporate startup program, because there's so many talents, so-called entrepreneurs inside of these corporates, which are somehow limited by the framework or the system they're in. So actually the corporates, they need to give those people really an opportunity, or actually a playground where they can make use of their potential and unlock the potential. And I think being part of a corporate startup within the F10 program is exactly that. And if you don't care about your entrepreneurs and your talents in the company, they will probably leave and then apply for the F10 program as an external startup, and then you can that's your choice you have. And that's exactly the idea behind the corporate startup program. Excellent. In your keynote or welcoming words at the beginning, I found 2 figures extremely interesting. You said that you have a 98% survival rate from your graduates. Not every startup, that we have to mention as well, finishes the program as well. If 15 enter, maybe 12 will finish, because you kick out startups as well if they don't follow up their milestones. But 98% survival rate is enormous. How do you reach that? Okay, I think that's, I was surprised about the numbers when I saw them first time as well, but I think there's a clear reason why it is. So it starts with, you need to have quantity in the selection. So you need to have enough applications. So you learn the trends, and then of course we do the selections together with the corporate. So you have kind of a crowd intelligence who does the selection. So that helps to
to choose the right topic. Then we have a lot of knowledge of choosing the right teams. You know, in the early stage thing, it's all about the team and, you know, the team constellation and these kind of things, more the soft factors. So we have developed you know, like knowledge about, you know, how to select the right teams, what are the criteria, which teams you take. And then at the end of the day, it's all, you know, when you have kind of confirmation from, you know, from the ecosystem, from the community that you have selected the right team, they will definitely also help the team to make progress. And then at the end of the day, you know, in order to make sure that they survive, they need money, you know, they need investment. And due to the fact that we have a really good investment network around F10, you know, most of the teams get sufficient funding and can make their path. So I think there's a reason why we have this high survival rate. But I mean, I must admit, I mean, we're 2 years down the line. We don't have, you know, like a 10 years case, unicorn, etc. So we still need to prove that this is that we do the right things, and you know that number will definitely, you know, looking different in 5 to 10 years. But we're still, you know, kind of very proud that we have achieved what we have achieved so far.
So just if I can, just to following up on that. So the 98%, what we do in the program, and it's a fun thing for startups to apply. So even if they have an idea, they have a small prototype, and they want to test it. What we do in the program is we want to accelerate either the good or the bad. So we're out there doing customer interviews with the startups. We're actually seeing if there's a real problem that they're solving. And we're pretty honest with the startups, the mentors, you know, the staff. I mean, I know Marek can kind of attest to this as well. If there's no problem, there's no business, we'll be honest. Just stop. So we'll have startups that haven't graduated, and then it's not always bad. You know, some are maybe, hey, there's team issues, or, you know, they're not really fully committed. But sometimes it's just, hey, listen, there's just no problem you're solving. You have no clients. Go back and get another job. You know, they might have the entrepreneurial spirit, which is beautiful and wonderful, and we'll always support that. But maybe they just don't have a company. And that's why to graduate, and ones that do graduate, it's because they've gone through that whole process. And they already have their first clients and looking to go forward. And yes, like Andy said, you know, we are only a couple years old. That number will obviously kind of, I guess, decrease from 98 as normal. But at the moment, you know, that's what we strive ourselves on, is that our startups are still operation within 1 or 2 years, because that means they have something there.
When you talk about your startups, you're talking about almost 45 startups that went through your program so far.
Mm-hmm. That's true, 41 I guess, that's true.
Marek, what do you think from your perspective as a startup that took place in this program? Why is that?
So what just James said is absolutely true. Like the first couple of weeks was just like to identify whether we are solving a real problem and if there's a market for their problem, right? So, and sometimes I think, you know, early stage companies are pretty naive, like, okay, you know, I'm solving the biggest problem in the world, but is there actually existing market for their problem? So I think this was great coaching from the beginning, you know, to get out there as soon as possible, you know, to question the market. Okay, is this a real problem? And then, since, you know, 6 months might seem long, but it's not really. If, you know, if you need to build a whole prototype, you know, and like, and you know, just today we had to show something functional and, you know, real in front of 300 people. So it was actually quite challenging to get to the point that, you know, you went through the customer interviews, you validated the problem, and you actually built something that, you know, you could put some numbers in, and it's functioning. So I think that the structure as James described was excellent, and it pushed us forward to to figure out whether we are a startup or are we a business or not. So that was great.
Perfect, Deborah. From the mentor's perspective, I mean, you put a lot of work and effort into choosing these startups. They've entered the program. You see their dreams, their ambitions, also their entrepreneurial spirit. How challenging and difficult is it for you as a mentor to tell to somebody, listen, I think you should stop?
I mean, yeah, you act as a sparring partner. That also means sometimes it's bad news. It doesn't always have to be that you have to tell them, you know, I don't think you're actually going to make it. Sometimes there's also other issues that you have to discuss with them. For example, the startup that I was mentoring lost a co-founder. So there were 2 in the beginning, now it's only 1. And that's also something that they, you know, want to discuss, and you know, then you act a little bit also as a moral support, as in, you know, the spirit is very important as a startup. Just to, you know, tell them, you know, it will go on. Let's help you, you know, to make a plan, because you have to somehow, you know, substitute that, and you figure out plans with them, and you know, you tell them, okay, so where are we now, and is there a solution to that? And they will always be stepping stones on the way. And I think that's also an important role that the mentor plays, is to, you know, uplift them a little bit and you know, make them obviously, you know, give them some hopes. And then of course, if it's not working out, you should never lie to startups. You know, you should. We always tell, like, everybody was here today, we told them, give them feedback, but give them tough feedback. Be very honest, because I think the worst thing that can happen is that somebody tells you, you know, how great you are and how great your product is, you know, just from a, you know, well-meaning, you know, point, but yeah, it usually doesn't help.
Feedback is the breakfast of champions.
Absolutely.
Andreas, maybe to finish with a sort of roadmap also for your company, for F10. You are expanding your hackathon model. On the roadmap, there's Singapore, Brazil, Vienna obviously coming 16th from 18th November. We will start, I think today we're starting together the application period. There's a website which we will link to. Okay. Maybe a brief, so to say, statement on why Vienna. Why do you think that there's space for your product in Vienna?
I'm really, you know, a big supporter of the idea of doing a hackathon in Vienna. Because I think, you know, Vienna somehow is the door to, you know, like Eastern Europe, and and as you know, Marek is a very good example that we have very good applications, very good team, very good entrepreneurs, tech savvy guys, you know, coming from there. And I think Vienna is a very good hub, you know, to run an event like the F10 Hackathon, to actually bring together, you know, the talents and work on something. That's one reason why I think I'm really a big fan of doing a hackathon in Vienna, and there is already a fintech ecosystem existing, which also is a good sign, because then you can kind of piggyback on that, of course. And there are, you know, great local initiatives there where we can partner together. So all the ingredients you need to cook a very nice meal. So I'm really very much looking forward for a great event in Vienna.
Perfect. The fourth batch of the P2 Accelerator program, the 6-month flagship program, will start in December. Application period until the 6th of September. We'll also link that. What is your expectation for the next batch?
Hopefully at least as good startups as we had today at the demo day. So you know, we want to make progress, of course. I think it's, you know, all goes with a bit waves. You know, we have waves on different topics. I think this time we had a lot of you know, data analytics, algorithms, machine learning, or AI, however you call it, topics, and I expect, you know, to have more of them in the future. Maybe also more crypto, DLT, you know, and you know, it's very much, it's very difficult to say. We will need to screen all the applications, but I think I will expect again, you know, a very good cohort of startups for the next batch.
Perfect, and I wish you all the best for the next batch. For Hackathon, we'll be very happy to partner with you on that one, and I'm excited about it.
Yes.
There's a unique model that you're also pursuing in the Hackathon. We keep keeping down the music here. There was a full house of like 300 people here that are also waiting now to have some party and drinks. So we'll close this live stream. Thank you all for these short insights. Thank you all for being with us. Very good demo day today, very good program. Stay tuned. We'll report about further developments. Thank you and good night.